Chu not to hitch Chani, not to hitch, Kloop Ma Tleitsu. I'd like to welcome you all to Indigenous Peoples Day 2020. And obviously, because of our pandemic and because of the chaos of the world, we are doing this virtually. But we're here at Keegan. There's Slitsniduk, myself, Wishki. In the background, we have Chakwasi, that sea stack there. Has got a little bit of a fame to it. There's a story behind that. But we wanted to start off and get our ceremonies officially underway and welcome you as we traditionally do through a song. So this is Tlishin Welcome Song. Iya nina ya haya nina haya nina ya nina ya haya nina ya nina ya hi hey. Ya nina ya haya nina haya nina ya nina ya haya nina haya nina ya nina ya haya Chani yaksit chani good time ichak chani ya nina ya haya nina haya nina ya Chani yaksit chani good time ichak chani ya nina haya nina haya nina ya nina haya nina ya Wiki-cha-cha-ni, Yakshit-cha-ni. Good time, Chak-chani. Ya-ni-na-ya, hi-ya-ha-ni-na. Hi-ya-ha-ni-na. Ya-ni-na-ya, hi-ya-ha-ni-na. Ya-ni-na-ya, hi-hey. Wiki-cha-cha-ni, Yakshit-cha-ni. Good time, Chak-chani. Ya-ni-na-ya, hi-ya-ha-ni-na. Hi-ya-ha-ni-na. Ya-ni-na-ya, hi-ya-ha-ni-na. Ya-ni-na-ya, hi-ya-hey. Ya-ha-ni-na-ya, hi-ya-ha-ni-na. Hi-ya-ha-ni-na. Ya-ni-na-ya, hi-ya-ha-ni-na. Hi-ya-ha-ni-na. Ya-ni-na-ya, hi-ya-ha-ni-na. Ya-ni-na-ya, hi-hey. So that was the Clishan welcome song. Welcome to Huu-ay-aht territory. Welcome to Kichen. This is our oldest village, and this song is talking about the way it is. You know that we want for all of our guests to not leave here until they've had a good time, and that's all that the song says over and over again. It's like it's asking our guests to stay here, not to go anywhere, because we guarantee that you're gonna have a good time while you're here. Our people here on the West Coast, but all throughout Canada, they all had different kind of ceremonies to acknowledge a change in season. And one of the things that our people would do here out on the West Coast, because we were at Kichen, this is our ancient village, and one of the things that we used to do historically to celebrate the changing of seasons, especially the summer solstice was a big one, the winter solstice was a big one, the equinoxes, all of those big, huge natural shifts that occur in the cosmos. Our people would know about this because there would be somebody in our village that their whole purpose and their whole job was to get up every day before the sun rises, to stay up past the sunset and make note and mark, those markers of where it rose and where it set. And that was their duty, that was their purpose for our community. And they would always know when the season is going to be making a jump into a new season, because the summer solstice in particular, it is marked and known because it is the longest day of the year. So when it shifts into the new season, you can tell by that, and they would celebrate that. So when the night was getting ready to fall and we're going into the night, they would want to celebrate the changing of the season, the new season, the New Year's, or different things like that. And one of the things that we do for Indigenous Peoples Day is to mark that event. Was they wait for the night to fall, and they go into our village back here, and in our whaler's house they would burn the fire really big and hot. They'd burn that fire really big and hot. They'd put some whale oil in there, and they'd wait for the night to start to fall. And as the night is falling, they'd make that fire bigger and bigger, and they'd poke out the little knot holes in the ceiling beams and the roof beams, and it would look like that firelight was just shooting out from the longhouse into the night sky. So that was like our ancient light show. We didn't have fireworks or laser beams, so to speak, but we could use the power of the firelight, because if you ever been out in nature, no matter where you're at, you can always see that campfire in the distance and that's what our people used to use to kind of highlight this new season. They'd gather up onto Fortress Rock as the night was falling, and when that light show was on, they would be chanting and singing and celebrating into the night. So this is always a very significant day for our people, and this was the same all throughout Canada. There's probably different kinds of stories for every different village and community. We don't have like one kind of broad stroke or paint stroke that says this is what we did. But for our neck of the woods on Keegan on the west coast of Vancouver Island, this is something that we did to mark the solstice event, and happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Chew.
Hello, Huu-ay-aht citizens. Today we're gonna peel cedar bark. We're gonna pull it off this tree. Usually the best time to pull cedar is in April and May. And for us, we use a X-Acto knife and a screwdriver. That's what we're gonna use today. First of all, we cut the bottom of the tree with the X-Acto knife. In the beginning, we usually say a prayer or thank the tree for the bark, but we already did that already. And then you use the screwdriver to get underneath the bark and pull it off the tree. Does it look good, Steve? Looks good to me.
A1.
And you pull it. That was a good one.
Oh, looks like it's not going to go that far. Okay, here we are. We're going to start cleaning the bark now. Leave the bark to where we gathered the bark. It's in the bushes. And it looks like it's nice, easy to clean. It's working really well here. Taking the outer layer of the bark off.
When you're pulling cedar bark, make sure you only do this much percentage of the tree all the way up. That way the tree still lives and feeds the birds and wildlife. And you still have a lot of bark around the whole tree. And it's in the shady area. True.
To start the day off, start our celebration off, I'm going to sing a community song about the Kleha, which is our community canoe. And the best way to move forward in our canoe is by paddling together, and that's what this song is all about. It's about unity. Huu-ay-aht Huu-ay-aht And a little bit of history of the Clé-Clé-ha. She was launched on the 5th of June, 1999. So this year was her 21st year. And it was quite an amazing day. We were down on the beach in Unakla launching the canoe. And the song didn't come right away. Actually, I found this song a year later because I remember thinking to myself that it was kind of sad that we didn't have a song for our canoe, because all of our songs historically would be owned by family. So we didn't have one that was a community song just for the Clé-Clé-ha. So a year later I found that song on the beach, and I in turn just decided to share it and gift it to all of the people of Huu-ay-aht. So that is our lightning canoe song.
Hello, my name's Veronica. I'm here tonight to do a demonstration of drawing fish. We're going to start with all the basics, starting from making sure your space is completely disinfected, ready to go. And we're going to make sure that you have all of your utensils and everything that you need to put into the jars. And you can see what I'm wearing here. I like to tie my hair up only because I have longer hair and strayaways tend to fall out, so you don't want to cook your hair with your fish. I like to wear an apron because it protects my clothes. You don't have to, you can grab an old raggedy t-shirt. So we'll start off with some basics here. Things you will need is a knife and a cutting board and clean disinfected surfaces. You'll need some fish. I'm going to be deboning them only because I prefer my fish to be deboned when I jar. Not all people prefer that. I have sanitized jars, and those lids are ready to go in a pot when I get to that stage. This container is for just catching my bones and my tails and my heads. And over here, I just keep all of my lids together because there's nothing worse than losing a lid while you're in the process of putting all your lids on to tighten and put them in the pressure cooker. I have 2 bowls to collect the fish when it's ready, and that will be ready. And then once I get the pressure cooker out, I'll go through the process of what it takes to load it, tighten it, seal it, and get it ready to cook. So right now I'm going to wash my fish. I'm going to take off any dry scales, any slime that might have piled while it was thawing. Give it a good rinse. Open it up. If you find any ice, any old blood, just give it a good scrape. Shake off some excess water. My first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and I'm going to make a slit right at the tail base. This will give me grip. So I can flip it, slice it, take off the fins. Now not everybody will take the stomach off. This is where the stomach is on the fish, and I just take it all the way to the head. If I was going to be smoking this, I would just kind of hang it up and put it on there without the head. But I'm not smoking it, so it's going in there. So now my fins are all off. I'm going to take this one off, just give it a little pressure and it'll slice right off. So when you're deboning the fish, you go in just at the right here, and you just glide it along the bones as thin as possible. Not everybody debones. I debone because I always have. My kids prefer it deboned, so just makes it a little extra loving for them. And then you see it's like super thin, and it's just right along the bones. That's just enough to take up as much meat from it as possible. And you do the same thing to the other side. And just let your knife guide you. It'll show you exactly where you need to go. You always want to be careful about where your sharp point is, because you don't want to get cut. And when I first started cutting meat or fish, I used to get a lot of them. And you can pull it off just like so, and the bones will come straight off. Now we're ready to slice. So we're gonna go small sizes just to throw it in the jar. Doesn't have to be perfect. We'll put it in the bowl. Another way to do this is I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to slice this in half, just like that. And then in the fish, the slab of fish, I'm going to lightly graze the fish, just like that. And when you look at it, it's still skin intact, but when you put it in the jar, you can just roll it up like this, stuff it in. So that's 2 ways of doing your fish. And that's a good way to do it if you know what size your fish jars are. If you don't, just put them in smaller pieces and stuff it into your jar. So we are now at the stage where we can stuff the jars. And what you need for this is a teaspoon. Just a general teaspoon is good. And some sea salt. I prefer to use sea salt just because, well, our fish comes from the ocean. So here we go. What I do is, for the smaller jars, I tend to put just a tip. So if you take it and you literally just put your tip in, and that's it. It's very little because you don't want it to be salty. And I learned this trick from my aunt. So before, I used to put my fish in the jar and then I would put the salt on top of the jar, or on top of the fish. But then I was talking to my auntie about jarring fish and she said, well, I put my salt at the bottom. And I said, oh, well, how come you put the salt at the bottom? She's a good thinker, I tell you. Because it boils, so the salt will go and boil up instead of dropping down. So now that's how I do my fish. And just a little in each, just the tip. So now here we are at the stuffing fish portion. All my jars are ready with salt in them. I'm going to show you this one. I put my fish in just like that. And what I am doing while I am doing this is I'm being very careful of the rim. We're going to be wiping this rim off anyhow. But you just want to be careful. You don't want to get the fish juices all over. But you'll notice I'm only using one hand to grab the jar and one hand to grab the fish. This will eliminate the outside of the jar getting sticky or scaly. So when I do the small jars, I leave about a ½ a centimeter to a centimeter rim space. And then I'll show you what it's like to stuff the larger jar. And again, you just want to be, you can make a mess of it. You're going to be wiping it down anyways if it's unavoidable. And what I also do when I'm stuffing my fish is I tend to pile the skin on the inside. I'm not too sure why, but I think it might just be an aesthetic thing, but it's just kind of how I was taught how to do it. You just keep the skin facing in and you keep the pink facing out. You just keep stuffing it, give it a press, see how much space you have in, and make sure you leave the rim, but a rim space on the larger jars. So now all of the fish has been stuffed into the jars. And what you want to do is, the reason why you do not want to have your fish too high up is because you're going to put sealing caps on. And you want to have your rim as clean as possible. You want it to like be squeaky clean because you do not want any particles of the fish to be on the rim. If there's fish or a scale or a slime, you don't give it a good rub, the seal won't seal. So you're going to do that to every one of your fish. Typically, depending on your jar size, like you can see I've done a variety here between a larger jar size and a smaller one. And these can come even smaller, like half the size of these. They're really good for snackies. They're really good to throw in salad. If you eat salad, I eat salad. I like to make those size for my own personal use. But typically this was about 10 small and medium sized fish. And you got about 2.5 cases ish, depending. If you're going to only do small jars, you'll probably need 2 or 3 cases of the small jars. Probably closer to 3, maybe 4. If you're doing larger only, then you'll probably only get 12 jars, 12 to 15 jars out of the 250 mils. 10 fish between small and medium, we got 15 250 mils and 12 half cups. So whatever that is. Can't do math all the time. But it's half the size of that. So there it is. And you're just going to continue to wipe them. Make sure your fish gets put down. And make sure there's nothing left on the thing. I like to use paper towel only because it seems to soak up any wetness around it. Some will use a cloth. You don't use a whole lot of paper towel when cleaning your rims. You just kind of do it like that. If you can rim it like with your fingers, how I rim it is I take my 2 fingers and I go like this between the paper towel and the jar. That way it gives it a little bit of a good clean on the inside, and you got to make sure the outside is really clean. See, this is what you get, making sure that you want to get all of that kind of grime off of your rim. You don't remove the grime, you don't get this seal. So you want to ensure you get a seal. Otherwise, you might be eating fish for days afterwards because it didn't seal right, and you never want to waste some good fish. And this is like a really good activity to bring with your children or your grandchildren. When I grew up with my grandma for a little while, I used to always help her. And my job was to clean the rims and put the salt in. That was part of my job. And the second part of my job was to tighten the rims after my grandma tightened them. So when we get to the rims, you'll see why. And then maybe I'll get my daughter to demonstrate what it was for me to do when I was learning how to jar fish with my grandma. It's a good bonding experience. It's a good way to teach with each other and kind of just create a conversation about what it was like for you to learn how to do fish, and then what it was like, you know, you can give them stories to grow with and be like, yeah, when I was a kid, you know, my mom or my grandma, my papa, they made me do this and it never made sense. But when I grew up, when I think about when I'm jarring fish, every time I jar fish, I think about my grandma, and I miss her every day, and she's an amazing woman, and this is one of the best things that she taught me. And it's been a learning experience because you remember it differently when you grow up. There we go. They're all ready to go. All right, so this is where the magic happens. We're going to take these rims, and when I was selecting my jars, what I did was I ensured that my large rim jars match my smaller jars. So then it makes it really easy for buying the same size lids all the time. Sometimes people prefer wide mouth. It's easier for cleanup and it's easier for stuffing. It doesn't matter to me. I think fish is fish in a jar, and that's how it goes. So what you want to do is I use this one because it's flat, it's wide, and it's not very deep. You don't need it very deep in the first place. And what you want to do is you want to take, I use warm water because you want it to come to, you want it to get warm is what you want. You want warm water. And you probably want to just cover your basin at the bottom. And then you kind of wait for it to warm up for a couple minutes. Make sure you count out your rims and make sure you have enough. So the water is boiling, and I'm going to take these. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in one by one. And they're going to kind of go to their own spot, but you kind of want to go in a circular motion so that they aren't landing right on top of each other. Because you don't want them to stick with each other, and you don't want them to be in the water too long. And if they have trouble kind of flattening themselves into the water, give it a little press with your next lid. So you just keep throwing them in like discs. And while it's doing that, the heat is it's relaxing the seal. That's what it's doing. And this is why it's so important to clean your rib. You want it to be as clean as possible, because if it is not clean, that seal will not take. I've had fish not seal, and then I've had to eat fish after it's made, because you don't want to waste fish. The goal in preparation and preserving your fish is not to waste it. You want it to last. So this is what we do. Jar our fish. You'll give that a good few little bits, and while you're doing that, you let it warm. You grab your cooling pan, you prep that while it's warming up, and then it's ready. So I'm going to take this over to the table. Here we are. We're putting our lids on the rims, and you're going to want to use some tongs. I bought my tongs at the dollar store. They're rubber tipped. They do the job. $1.25. Bam. It's better than burning the tips of your fingers. So you're going to take it, put it on, hand it to your youngling. When you're checking your fish, before you put your rim on, your jar, you want to make sure that this has nothing on it. Sometimes we can't get it all, and so you just want to keep a damp cloth in case, it's just dried, it's a little bit sticky, and that's it. You just want to make sure it's not sticky, nothing on it, easy to go. And you just keep doing this 27 times, this count, until you're complete. Particularly, this is the longest part of the process in jarring fish. It takes about a good 2 hours of repetitive work. You know, you want to clean your fish, debone. I debone my fish. You don't have to. You debone it. You stuff it, salt it, clean your rims, put on your lids. It takes about 2 hours, depending on how, you know, how well you can get down on deboning. Sometimes if you want to be deboning, it takes a while to get used to, and takes some time if you don't know how to do that. And you know, like when I first started, it took me a while. Because a fish could take me a long time to defin and debone, and you know, I was determined to learn those. So I can do a fish probably in a minute, but you know, that's because it's taken time for me to do it. And you always want to make sure that your lid goes on properly. Not like this one is struggling. So when it struggles, just take another lid, another rim, and put it on and continue on. Like, just put it aside because it might be a little bit warped. And you know, like it's more repetitive than what it is. And you know, I remember, you know, when you're first learning, it seems like it takes forever because you try to be overcautious. And, you know, like this is one of my favorite things to do. So it doesn't take me that long, but it's taken years for me to get quicker than it did when I first started. And so it's not like, you know, this was just something I did. You know, it's not something that I perfected overnight. It's something that took time. And you want to make sure that when you're doing this, you're putting love into it. You know, you're thinking about what it is you're doing, how you're going to enjoy this jar fish come fall, come winter, come spring. You know, whenever you feel like you just kind of want fish. I like to make larger jars so that when I'm preparing for a feast, you know, a potlatch or a family event, I have a larger jar. Those ones I tend to put in the base, and those, you know, like it's just kind of being prepared for those moments that you need larger jars. And then there's, you know, these size jars, they're good for family size sandwich making. And then the smaller ones can be good for like 2 people, 1 person, you know, fish hash. My gram used to make us fish soup with you know, like kind of like a tomato soup, and then or vegetable soup, and then she'd throw in some jarred fish, and it tasted really yummy. It was kind of like a minestrone with jarred fish added to it. So there's so many things you can do with jarred fish. You just need to get open and creative with it. It takes you out of the whole fish and rice, fish and potatoes, and like fish sandwiches. I like those. I have no complaints. So yeah, thank you for your help, Ines. We're finally ready to load the pressure cooker. So I have an industrial size pressure cooker, but I utilize this kind of pressure cooker. When I first started, I had a small pressure cooker, then a medium pressure cooker, and now I have an industrial size one. And most times I can fill it up, only because I don't do just my preparation. So when I'm loading the pressure cooker, I want to start off with my larger size jars. So if you happen to do the 1 liter jars, or I think it's called 1 pint. No, these are 1 pints. Or 1 quart, I think. Metric system does not match with me. Fish is fish when I'm jarring it. So anyways, you want to start off with your larger size ones. And you're going to put them in. And when you load them, you're going to go in a circular motion. Because you can do 2 at a time, lessening your time for that. I like using a larger size one because I can fit more and I'm utilizing my time better for this. And what ends up happening is sometimes we have to adjust things, and you don't want them too condensed. Like, you don't want them too close with each other. Like, that would be too close. And we can't avoid it. So we're going to start the second layer. You might, you can try to shift things around to try and make it work. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. So then, after your first layer of larger jars go on, you start your layer of short jars. And you want to be able to have them balanced, because when it comes to a boil, they will rock. And if they are too loose with each other, like say I leave it like this and then it rocks, that's what you're going to hear for 3 hours. You don't want to hear that for 3 hours. So you want to try create the space so it is not rocking, literally rocking, while you're trying to relax after doing all of this hard work. And preservation is a lot of hard work, but it is so worth it. Like, I absolutely love it. It's therapeutic for me, but that's because I love doing it. So you can see I have it set. It's not going to rock horribly while it's boiling. That's your goal. You're going to put it on your largest burner, and sometimes if it is this size, for this particular size, my particular one, I will put it between the two, only because it's really large. But if you have a smaller one, you want to try keep it to 1, because you want to try keep the heat base the same, consistent through the entire process, so that it's not overheating on one side and being cooler on the other, vice versa. You don't want to create more friction than is needed. So I'm going to take, I usually use my big 2-liter Pyrex cup, and I usually start it with about half of it, just to start up the warming process. And what you want to do is you want to start it off at max. That's going to heat up your water. And you're going to put in lukewarm to not cold water, because you don't want to chill your glass, but lukewarm water, maybe a little less than lukewarm. So now I've put in about 3 liters of water, but that's only because of my pot size. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this adjusted so that when I come back 3 hours later, I want to be able to have it ready to take off of the burner. Now, the thing about it is you want to have your heat balanced, so you're going to listen quietly for probably about 15 minutes until it gets a good rock going. And once it gets the rock going, then you're going to turn your pot down. Some people only put very little of water in their pressure cooker, but I tend to put a little bit more, only because I'm cooking various sizes. It's really, I think it's to each its own. I've never had a problem, so this is how I do it. So I'm going to put my lid on, and it's a big hefty duty lid. So what I'm gonna do is, everything here is placement, right? So when I place this on the stove, I want to be able to read my gauge, because that's going to tell you how much pressure is on it. So if you think about it, you're going to read this. And this pressure is going to go, you want it to be around here, right in between there somewhere. And that'll be how much heat is in there, how much pressure is in there. And if it gets to be too hot, it's going to rumble. It's going to shake, shake, shake. So you're going to turn it down and the pressure will drop. And you'll also have this little gadget. Depending on the weight, I tend to put mine in the middle only because that's what I was taught. So I put it on in the 10 pressures. You can Google that. It's usually 10 to 15 pressures depending on the weight of your fish. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take these and I'm going to line it up. So when I'm lining it up, my lid has pressure holders. So these things keep it locked into here. And you want to make sure that when you lock it, you can hear it. There's like almost like a clicky sound. I'm totally smoking. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take each lock. So this is lock 1. And just like when we're tightening these things. And like when you get a flat tire, you tighten your bolts, you go to the other side. You'd never go in a clockwise, counterclockwise motion. You always go to the other direction that you're sitting in. So you move it and you tighten it. You can, if you want to be efficient, you can do both sides at the same time. I like to be efficient when I do this because it takes a while to get done. And the last 2. And this will help just build up the pressure within the pressure pot and help you with the cooking of it. So if you do not have a pressure cooker, because not everybody can have one. I never started out with a pressure cooker. I always had a stock pot. But if you have a stock pot, you can do your jars, and those take about 5 to 6 hours. And the time is about double. And then if you have a pressure cooker, it's half the time of what it would take. So something this size will probably be about 3 hours. So I'm all set. Once my pressure gets up to about 15, I will come, turn down my heat, and just sit and listen. And when it gets too hot, every time it gets too hot, it will boil more. So now we've been here for a bit. My pressure is now at about 10, but it's at pressure about 10, it's around 240 degrees. And this is starting to sizzle a little bit. I've made sure all of my tighteners are tight, and I've turned down my heat. So when you're sitting close to it, you'll hear a little bit of a sizzle. That's how you like it. This is the pressure. And then you just kind of want to keep it at a steady heat and a steady pace. And if it starts to rock like this, and you hear that sizzle get louder, come and check it, or take a peek at the pressure. If it's getting too hot, that's your clue to come in and turn it down. You know, you don't want to overcook and overheat, because once it starts doing that, it'll start cracking your jars. You don't want to start cracking jars. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take my spatula and I'm going to release the pressure slowly. You don't want to release it quickly, because releasing it quickly will put too much pressure on the jars. But as you're releasing it, you'll smell the fish. The fish will appear, the smell of the fish will appear kind of cooked. Kind of like when you bake it, it'll be like you recognize the fish cook smell. So it's going to sound really loud, and the pressure as I release the pressure, it will start to drop. You want to cover your hand because you do not want the steam to burn it. I don't know if this is like the most correct way to do it, but this is the way I do it. I have a big fear of cracked jars, so I don't chance anything. Okay, so we are reaching 0 pounds of pressure. And you'll notice I've loosened some of these tighteners, and the sound of the steam is getting lower because we're reaching 0. That's your goal. As it reaches 0, if you have access to a knob, take it second and loosen it. I always use a glove because I'm protective of myself and my skin, but you're going to hear a loud whoosh. Okay, maybe not. Not this time. Sometimes if you release it too soon, you'll hear a loud whoosh. You want to listen for that steam to stop, and while it is stopping, it gives you an opportunity to loosen your knobs. You want to be able to loosen your knobs so that it'll break the seal of your pressure cooker, and again, like a flat tire, you want to release opposite angles from each other. So we're now at 0. We've now released all the pressure. There is no longer steam going through. And when you lift this lid, you want to lift it up. So the steam that is left over will go the opposite direction of you. You do not want to lift it up open to you because the steam is hot. So what I recommend is I use one of these. I use one of these because when I'm loosening knobs, it's easier for dexterity. And then you just kind of lift slowly, release the steam, and you'll see the steam go away. You take the lid and you put the lid down. As you can see, I've already got my towels laid out here, just for extra protection on the plastic. I will put this guy back down. I use this guy This is a jar handler. You can get them at the dollar store, but you can also get them in a package at Walmart. And what you're going to do is, so you're going to come and you're going to grab the first one that is accessible. For this row, I have a large jar that made everything accessible, so I will grab that one first. And I will put it down. And then I will just continue on. We're getting to the end of unloading the pressure cooker. So what I was thinking about was how it would be if you're using a pot or a stock pot. When you're utilizing a pot that is not a pressure cooker, you want to keep your water about a half a centimeter to an inch over of water, because so you want to be able to keep it at least a thumb width. If you want to measure, you take a measurement, use a thumb width and have that above the jar of fish. The reason for that is that when you're using a pressure cooker, the pressure cooker is going to take the 8 cups of water or whatever I put in, and it's going to build that pressure up. When you're utilizing a pot, it only utilizes the pressure within the pot. So it's only going to cook what it's covering. So you want to be able to keep it at least this much above your water of your jar. So that is it. It has been a pleasure doing this for you, and I hope that you find this helpful. I think that if you need anything in the future, if you need any support or help jarring fish, I am open and willing to help you. But what you want to finish off this night with is hearing a bunch of pops. Each jar will go pop, 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 pop. And that's your sense of happiness, because that is your validation of good job done. So enjoy your fish after you finish, and bon appetit.
Okay, the next one I'd like to sing for you is a song we simply call Huu-ay-aht, and it's imported. And our history tells us that this song is actually 2 songs combined into one. And the early time of traveling on schooner ships, we jump on ships and jump on different things, and all of a sudden we're able to travel vastly longer distances as opposed to in our dugout canoes. So we would go on these work missions and trading expeditions, and one of the things that was a commodity to our people is our songs. And this one was acquired to our nation, and it was imported from Alaska, the first part of it, and also from California. So it just goes to show the kind of range that they used to travel in. So this is one of our most popular songs. Huu-ay-aht Huu-ay-aht hala, ho, wheela, we hala, ho, wheela, hala, wheela, So that one comes to us courtesy of the Williams and the Klamath House family, and in turn shared it with Cleason and all of our people at the old Potlatch house at Keegan. It became like a grand entry song, and they used to use it to dance in gifts and foods and offerings, many different things. So this is an ancient song as well, and one of our more popular ones, and it's an import.
True. Here to help get Devil's Club. It's a plant that we can use with the bark, the inner bark for medicines, or can use the roots for medicines as well. And also with the inner part, we can use it to make necklaces, or if it's thick enough, we can make a walking stick out of it. My name is Nikishan. From a house at Nuu-chah-nulth. So we're going to harvest this, and as you can see, there's some young parts.
Mm-hmm.
I was told by an elder that we can take those parts, put them back in with the vegetation, and it'll grow again.
Wow.
So I'm going to clip a couple parts off.
So this is the best time to pick them for Indian medicine and ceremony use?
Yes, I think at this time, it's pretty much this time of year because it's wet and they're just starting to dry out and it's easier to peel them.
Oh, wow. Okay. Same time as you pick cedar
Yes,
bark? Or, yeah, cedar bark?
yes.
Yeah. Mm.
Mhm. I'm going to clip. And as I said, giving back to keeping what's here.
Mm-hmm.
Because what it needs is the surroundings, the vegetation, the dampness, the coolness. That's what it thrives on.
So what we're after is the thick bark?
The thick bark, the thicker ones.
Mm-hmm.
So from here, and we'll do the same with this one. So you can see it's in there.
Mm-hmm.
And here I'm going to get it as close as I can. There we go. And then that. This stuff grows like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, we got a lot in here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just one section.
Mm.
And the area we're in
Mm-hmm.
has at least 1 kilometer of this.
Holy smokes, eh? Yeah.
True. So now that we've got it cut, I've moved to a place where I can work to get our outer bark off with the prickly stuff, because we take what we need and we leave what we don't. So I'm going to use this butter knife to get this outer bark off. We're going to use the inner bark, so that's what I'm going to work toward. So we don't take something sharp, we just take something that can scrape the top part of. As you can see that green layer there? That's what we're after. We just want the outer bark off. And the reason for that is that green part is where our medicine is.
Oh, wow, eh?
And this outer bark is the protective layer,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what protects the devil's club. So we'll do this whole thing, helping my Uncle Corey Howard out, who's working with Huu-ay-aht, to show him how to process this devil's club.
Clicko, Howard.
Cool. Now that we got everything peeled off, everything outer bark we don't want, we now have this long stick. We can use it in many different ways. Traditionally, people used it as a walking stick, or when they're going through the forest and the vegetation to help them see where they're going, feel the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So we've measured this out, and I'm going to cut it so that it's going to be a walking stick from there. Oh. So from there, we're going to peel this outer layer off, like so.
Oh, wow, eh?
As you can see, I didn't need a knife or anything. You can just peel it off. What you're left with is the inner bark. Like I said, we were after the green part. This is where all the medicinal properties are in the Devil's Club. So once it dries out, you can boil your water and throw bits in for tea. And what you're looking for when you're doing the tea is having a little green tinge in there. That's how you know that the oil has come out. And that's what we're after. So I'll continue a bit here just to show how easy it is to do. And you can keep the, you can do it in about 1 inch.
Cool.
So as you can see, we finished getting bark off. What we have here is the inner part. We can let this dry for at least 24 hours. It'll harden up, and this will make a good walking stick. And we cut little pieces off. As you can see, thickness, we can use it for jewelry, necklaces, beads, or as you can see the drum there, we can make a drumstick as well. And again, an unleft piece to help save people, protect people. And green part's what we're after for the oils for later, the inner part. So what we want to do now is we want to let this dry out till it's brittle so it breaks, so that we can use it as a tea to steep, and it'll help medicinally. Shoo.
Okay, the next one I'm going to do for you this afternoon is the partners, and in our language we call it Huu-ay-aht, which is a dancing song. And on this song, there's a part on this dance and this song where the dancers are taking like 10 steps forward and 8 steps back, and it takes a long time when you have a procession, you know, to make this grand entrance into the Potlatch house. And one of my favorite memories of this song is in 1983, in March of 1983, my parents had a potlatch, and it was the first time that we had a potlatch in a long time. And this song here, the partner song, is the one that broke the silence. Our people were on a century-long slumber because our government of Canada in 1883 instituted a potlatch ban. It became illegal for our people to practice our customs and our rituals and even our songs, or even just to congregate more than 5 Indians to a room. That was not allowed. It was outlawed. So we were unable to practice these songs and dances for quite some time. And this ban got lifted in 1951, but it took quite a few years after that for people to kind of like embrace the Huu-ay-aht identity. And when we finally did so, it was 100 years later. After a century-long slumber, we decided, okay, the Huu-ay-aht, we're going to wake up now, and we're going to sing our songs, we're going to dance our dances, and we're going to make the grandest entrance of all time, and we're going to come back. And that's exactly what the newspaper said. The Huu-ay-aht said that the Huu-ay-aht actually has come back. So this is the partner song. It comes to us from the Dennis family, Telford Dennis, my late great-grandfather. This was his songs. Hee-ya, hee-ya, ay, hee-ya, ho, 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 hee-ya, ya, ya, ay, hee-ya, ho, 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 hee-ya, ya, ya, ay, hee-ya, ho, 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 hee-ya, ya, ya, ay, hee-ya, ho, Huu-ay-aht Huu-ay-aht Ila alitsaleo, 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 So that was a partner song or a grand entry song. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Uklama Hinatinyas Huu-ay-aht Ojibwe-aht Nuu-chah Chani Nuu-chah Chani Wahukitma Kwashu Isi Tawin Wahya Kelmet Klau Kwashu Isi Haukitma Klau Kwashu Isi Tseskmes Wakitma Klau Kwashu Isi Wakitma Hauk Klau Kwashu Isi Wawama Klau Kwashu Isi Wee Kamit Cook Itma Wash Shit Wahukitma Kwashu Isi Tawin Wahya Kelmet Klau Kwashu Isi Haukitma Klau Kwashu Isi Tsesk Mes Wakitma Hauk Klau Kwashu Isi Wawama Klau Kwashu Isi Wee Kamit Cook Itma Kamit Cook Itma Wash Shit. We created this for our poets, our daycares. We have two, one here in Port Alberni and one in Anakla. It was created to expose the children to the written Nuu-chah-nulth language in a way that they already recognize. And if you take a look at what I was doing here, I figure you probably know what I was doing, but the literal translation is a little bit more funny. When you take a look, this first one is, there was a pig that went to town because I couldn't find a word for market. This one says, another little pig stayed home. Another little pig ate meat. Again, not a word for roast beef. And then another little pig did not eat. And the last one is, another little pig said, wee, 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 as he ran home. The little translation's a little bit more fun, but the kids like it. Ushakshi kleets chu.
We ya la ho 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 we la we ya la ho ho we la we la ho we ya la we ya la we la Awesome, very good. Okay, this next one that we're going to do this afternoon is Nuu-chah-nulth, which is our main winter village, Sarita Bay. It's our used to be historically called IR1, and this song is all about being accepted and initiated into clan, and they're celebrating because they're all been initiated into the wool. So I'm hoping that these guys are going to participate, and there might be a howler or two amongst our group, but we'll see. Ow! Hi-ya, hi-ya, ha. Hi-ya, ha-hi-ya. Yes, hi-ya, ha. Nuu-chah-nulth People. Hi-ya, hi-ya, hi-ya. Hi-ya, hi-ya. Yes, hi-ya, ha. Nuu-chah-nulth Here we go. Yes, fire, fire, Nuu-chah-nulth, Nation Kawa, Haya, 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 Haya. Yes, fire, fire, Nuu-chah-nulth, Indigenous Peoples.
Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a mouthful, eh?
Yeah. Happy Indigenous
Used to be Indian Day
Peoples
when
Day.
I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll give it a shot. Okay.
do
Okay.
you
Everybody watch. Everybody watch. And then at the end, everybody just yell out "Happy Aboriginal" or "Happy
Indigenous Peoples Day.
Indigenous Peoples Day."
National Indigenous Peoples Day.
Happy.
National
Yeah.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
What is
Okay, you guys, you know how to say it.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I
Come on,
messed
send
up.
it.
I need some help.
Mom, how do you say it?
Okay, everybody look into the camera. Make sure the mic can hear you up there.
How do you say it?
You say Happy National Indigenous
Happy National
Indigenous Peoples Day.
Indigenous People.
No, Zara. Corey, come. Say it with me. No.
Okay, tuning in,
Happy
everybody. We
National-
just like to say,
Happy National Indigenous Peoples Day.
awesome,
There's a People Day.
and happy Father's Day.
Happy birthday, Kristen.
Happy birthday. My mom. Happy birthday, Auntie. From Lyra.